Welcome to r/entitled people, where we share stories from your lives about people who think the rules don't apply to them, and they should get what they want. Thank you friends for subscribing to the channel, and for so many likes. And today we have two great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story, a customer used fraud to extort $3,000 from the company. She was banned. The second story, entitled Mother Claims to be Married to My Father to Get Free Drinks. The first story is entitled Customer Scams Us Out of Over $3,000 worth of money and services. First, a little backstory. I work in the custom framing business, a pretty expensive field, so as you can imagine it draws out the worst in people. From people who didn't know that a custom frame costs at least hundreds of dollars, to people who know and just want to make it my problem anyways. I've seen it all. This story takes place at a workplace I have since left, thank God for that, a major craft store chain in the US and Canada. We'll call it Pikel Thompson's for the story. I work in the back at the custom framing counter. Since frames are so expensive, people are always trying to find a way to get a discount because it took too long or I don't like the work or whatever lie they come up with. Look, I totally get it. I work as a framer and I can't even afford to buy a custom frame. I sympathize, but I don't make the prices. We still have the very best prices out of any place, and there are other cheaper options for your artwork if you're broke like me. This particular customer I will call Karen, because she is one, and also because I forgot her name. She had some weird name that I hadn't heard before, like Tabitha or something. She didn't seem like she was going to be any trouble at first. Actually, I really liked her when I first met her. She seemed very friendly, and she was a lot less pushy than most. She also didn't complain about the price, which is very rare. She put in an order for 2 pieces. One was a set of 4 hand-sewn antique rugs that her grandmother had sewn, and the other was for a birth certificate. But it wasn't a normal birth certificate. It was hand-drawn with little fish and octopus on it, not like any birth certificate I had seen before. Now, the rugs were already framed and sewn down onto mat board, and she wanted to replace the frame and the old mat with a new one. When we take an order like this, we always ask if they want to keep the old material and have it returned after we take it out. Sometimes the frame is sentimental, or they just want to save it to use for something else. People can get pretty upset if you throw out something they wanted to keep. She was very vocal about, yes, please, throw out the old thing. It's so old and ugly, haha. So I, of course, toss out the old frame and mat for the rugs, and then store the art to be framed in a few weeks. This is where problem 1 begins. Our store has a 2-week turnaround time on custom frame jobs. It's always 2 weeks unless they pay for expedited shipping and handling, which she, of course, didn't. The frame and mat gets sent to us from a distribution center in Texas, and our store is in California, so the components we need to put the frame together don't even show up till a few days before the order is due. About a week after the order was placed, my framing manager, who we'll call Daria, gets a call from Karen. Karen says that I told her it would be ready in a week, and that she's gonna come pick it up today. Daria tells Karen that no, it's not ready and won't be for another week. And right on cue, Karen flips her SH. He told me, this is the most unprofessional thing. You will do it for me today. Blah, blah, blah. My manager knows I would never tell anyone it would be a week if they didn't pay for expedited shipping. Why would I? Karen pulls some BS lie about how she has a memorial or something so she needs it, which she definitely didn't mention before. I'm there next to my manager while she's on the phone with this horrid lady, letting her know that she's full of it as she's screaming about this. So Karen calms down real fast, almost too fast for comfort. She says, okay, well then just give it back to me in the old frame with the old mat. Which of course we do not have since she told me to get rid of it. Blow up number 2 comes hurtling out of her mouth. I never said that. That was my grandma's frame. It's irreplaceable. How could you? There's nothing you can do to make this up to me. And I can hear her screaming even though my ear was far away from the phone. So after a few more minutes of Karen screaming about this priceless heirloom frame, it was clearly a cheap frame, she asks, how are you gonna fix this? Standard protocol when something bad happens is to give them a refund on their money and do the work for free. So she begrudgingly accepts and hangs up. She calls back about 10 minutes later, calm as a cucumber, to apologize. Oh, I know it wasn't your fault, OP. You're doing your best and it was just a misunderstanding. At the time, I thought it was a little weird, because people don't just calm down that fast after you threw out a family heirloom. I mean, she literally sounded like nothing had happened at all, but I just brushed it off for the time being. Now, if she had stopped there, it wouldn't have been as big of a thing, but of course, she was just getting started. The day finally comes when it's time to put her pieces together and I do it. No problems, and the rugs actually turn out really well. One of my favorite jobs I'd done, and I was sure she was gonna love it. I call her and she comes to get her pieces the next day. I refund her her money and she's just overjoyed at how well they turned out. We always unwrap the art to show to every customer so we make sure they love it before taking it, and she loved it. About an hour later, I receive a call. I answer and, "OP, you damaged my art. My one-of-a-kind hand-painted birth certificate. I cannot get another one. They don't just print these. Blah, 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 blah." Holy hell with this woman. Now I'm starting to panic at this point. I know I didn't damage it, but I thought maybe it got a bend when it was put away or something small maybe could have happened. Small mistakes like that happen every once in a while, especially in a really high-volume store like ours. So I ask her how it was damaged, and she says 2 whole letters were missing off her name. Now there's a couple things to consider here. The name on the certificate was drawn in ink in big block letters. Ink does not just rub off, it's soaked into the paper. Even if it was as pastel or pencil, it wouldn't rub off, it would smudge. But it was really old, so at the time in my panic state, I thought maybe something could have happened somehow. The other thing was, if the letters are so big, how was it she didn't notice this when she picked it up? Not to mention I would have definitely noticed if I rubbed off 2 massive letters when I was doing the job. Framing is a precision craft, and we work for really delicate, valuable stuff all the time. So you always have to be very careful. I'm not in the habit of manhandling customers' art, especially when I knew it was very old and very fragile. The letters were already almost gone when she brought it in, due to wear and tear over the years. But I had no proof that it was like that before. We're supposed to take a picture of the art when we take the order, but our cameras were down that day, and she had seemed so nice at the time that I didn't bother because I thought she'd be chill. If I had only taken a picture, I could have shut her down quick. I start to get worried, mind racing, thinking maybe it was rubbed off in the storage sleeve or something. So I stutter and try to explain that I'm pretty sure I would have noticed, but she's not having it. I hate confrontation. I just don't handle it well. My mind goes into panic mode and my brain shuts off and I can't talk very well or judge situations, so I try my best to talk her down and get her off the phone by explaining there's such a thing as art restoration places, that they'll almost certainly be able to fix it for her. She chills out and hangs up, then she calls back 10 minutes later, cool as a cucumber once again, and gives me the same speech as last time. "Oh, I know it wasn't your fault, OP. You're doing your best and I'm sure it happened on accident." Again, she seems too cheery. I start to wonder a little more about this. I call every art restoration and conservation place I can find on Google for the next couple hours of my shift, and come up with a list of places that might be able to fix this absolute SH show. I ring her back and give the list to her, and that was that for a while. Something this big goes straight up to corporate. Damaging art is a big deal, a serious no-no. So naturally, I get a call from corporate later that day. They start asking about the whole situation, and I express my concerns about this customer. Like I said previously, people will try and scam their way into a free frame. Pretty often, actually. I told corporate there was a lot about her story that didn't add up, telling me to throw out the old frame, then going back on it and claiming it was valuable when it was not. The whole thing about how the letters being rubbed off didn't make sense, and about her bouncing between mad AF and totally cheery suspiciously fast. They thank me and let me go, and I just go back to work. These kind of claims take a while to work themselves out. Basically, she was told to go get her birth certificate restored, and then give us a receipt, and then we reimburse it for her. I don't think she even got it fixed for months. She certainly wasn't in a hurry. And she never brought the certificate back to have us put it in the frame after she got it restored. What I do know is how much we forked over to her for it to be restored. Something like $2,500 for the restoration. And if you include the price of the free frame she got, she took us for a little over $3,000. For all I know, she just BS'd that price and corporate just gave it to her to not cause drama. Our company has a tendency to just cave to angry customers really fast. It just makes our lives easier, and it's not my money, so I usually don't care. The story doesn't end there, though. It turns out that corporate actually started doing some digging on her, and that what they uncovered was very interesting. It turns out that she has a reputation at every single Pickles store in the area. The 4 closest stores to us all knew her by name, and they all had a similar story. She would bring something to get it framed, find a problem with the art, throw a temper tantrum, and walk out with a free D frame. 4 times she did this. It still makes me mad to think about it. Sadly, this isn't a story with some epic ending where she got dragged off to jail or something like some of the other stories I've read on r/entitled people. But she did sort of get hers. She had pushed her luck a little too far this time, with her whole $2,500 restoration job stunt. Once corporate found out she had a record of getting free frames from all different stores, she was blacklisted, and is no longer able to get stuff framed at Pickles. Usually when someone gets a free frame for some sort of mix-up, it's not that big of a deal, and it doesn't reach the higher-ups in corporate. So if she hadn't gotten greedy, she probably could have just kept going to new stores, and pulled the same SH at least a few more times. I'll tell one thing though, I'm sure glad I wasn't the one who had to tell her she was banned. I have a theory why she called you back with a different tone. It seems she was trying to get you to like her so that she could pull the same trick again. It seems to me that to avoid such situations you need the following. If they want to keep the old frame or not, there should be a paper which they have to sign to say they want the old frame to be discarded. And also, after she's inspected the finished work in front of you, she also has to sign a contract saying that everything is fine. Well, or you should really take a picture of the finished product after her first tantrum just in case. Because it's pretty sad that people get nice things for a living by extortion through loopholes in this procedure. It shouldn't happen again. Your management should have looked at their attitude on this. No, they were right to ban her, but she's not the only one. Next time it could be one of her followers or her children. The management can't just ban everyone. You need to be more careful with the order and the rest of the interaction with the client. It's not a cheap thing, and handicraft that takes time and resources. And the last story is, entitled mother claims that she has connections to my dad. Cast, me is me, EM is entitled mother, EK is entitled kids. So I used to work at a local shop, owned by my father, and I used to help out sometimes. And business was usually busy but not crowded in the shop. I have never had any customer come on with such a Karen ego as this woman. EK was being dragged behind EM, clearly not wanting to be here. The conversation went as follows. EM, excuse me? Me, yes ma'am. EM, my child is dehydrated and in terrible pain. This clearly was not the case as the child looked fine and not pale at all. Me, okay ma'am, just find a drink and come and bring it to the counter, and I can scan it straight away. EK, Mom, I'm thirsty. EM, don't worry darling, I'll get you something in a minute. They walked off and came back with a Pepsi and a water. EM placed a drink on the counter and said to me, as usual, I expect these drinks to be free. Me, excuse me ma'am, but why would that be? I'm not familiar with my father's discounts. EM, I'm married to the owner of the shop, of course, which she clearly wasn't because my dad has a wife. Me, ma'am, that's wrong. You're not married to the owner of this shop. EM, of course I am. How would you know, you little SH? Me, ma'am, I am the son of this shop's owner. I have a mother, and that mother is not you. EM looks shocked and then attempts to steal the drinks from the shop. Luckily, we have a security officer on the door managing people coming in, and he stopped EM in her tracks. He called the police and she was arrested, and the child was safely delivered to the father. I'm just glad I'm not him. The kid was a nightmare. I love that people are really trying to pull this off. Do they really think the cashier won't check in? Hilarious. But I like it even more when the cashiers actually know the owners, are in a family or friends relationship with them, or owners themselves, and put wild Karens in their place. It's terribly nice to read that, and even better to see it with my own eyes. Subscribe, hit the like button, and have a good day.